Welcome back to our channel. Hope you have relaxing moments listening to stories. We invite you to embrace the moment by liking the video, sharing your reflections in the comments, and subscribing to remain connected with our latest narratives. Just past the stroke of midnight, a gentle knock echoed through the stillness of my home. The sound of a knock, unexpected and stirring, echoed through the stillness of the night. Gentle and tentative, as if the individual was caught in a moment of uncertainty about their presence. As I nestled into the couch, cradling a warm cup of tea, I found myself lost in the familiar pages of a book that had woven its way into my heart time and again. The stillness of my home enveloped me, a familiar hush that lingered in the air at that hour, and I found myself nearly believing that I had imagined the sound. Yet again, the knock echoed, this time with an urgency that stirred something deep within. I placed my cup gently on the coffee table and rose to respond. The clock on the wall whispered 12:15 a.m., and a peculiar tension began to weave itself within me, stirring emotions I couldn't quite place. My thoughts danced through a myriad of possibilities. Who might it be? The arrival of someone at this hour took me by surprise. As I turned the handle and opened the door, Samuel, my neighbor, was there, waiting just beyond the threshold. Samuel, my neighbor in his mid-40s, had a familiar presence and a calm demeanor. We had shared gentle words over the fence on a few occasions, yet beyond that, our encounters remained few and far between. He appeared slightly tousled, his typically tidy attire now creased, and his gaze carried a depth I had never encountered before. "Oh, I hope I'm not intruding," he murmured, his fingers brushing the nape of his neck, his eyes darting shyly to the ground. I longed for a connection, a gentle voice to share my thoughts with. Surprised, I gently moved aside, inviting him in with a subtle gesture. "Absolutely, Samuel. What's happening?" I inquired, my voice gently fading as I sought to decipher the expression on his face. He paused briefly, his steps measured and intentional as he crossed the threshold. The living room, lit softly by a few lamps, carried an air of quiet reflection as he stood there, embodying the struggle within his own heart. "I've been navigating some challenging moments," he began, his voice soft and intimate. "There has been a certain depth to things. Intricate." I found myself at a loss, unsure of where to seek solace. I nodded, a silent invitation for him to join me, and we both sank into the softness of the couch. Thoughts swirled within me, seeking to grasp the reason behind his unexpected arrival. What could be so significant that he would arrive like this, unexpectedly and without warning? He released a slow breath, gathering his thoughts before moving on. I found myself at a loss, unsure of whom to turn to. Yet, I find myself lost in contemplation, and I must express it openly. I find it increasingly difficult to maintain the facade that all is well. The gravity of his words enveloped me, leaving me breathless and uncertain of how to reply. Samuel had always exuded a sense of calm, a master of his feelings, yet in this moment, he appeared to be a man on the brink of losing himself. "Whatever it is, Samuel," I said, my voice calm and unwavering. "There's no need to hold back. Feel free to share your thoughts with me." He gazed at me then, and for the first time that night, his eyes appeared to warm, as if an unseen wall between us had begun to dissolve. He cleared his throat, pausing to collect his emotions. He hesitated, searching for the right words to express his feelings. "Yet, there's a lingering challenge that weighs on my heart. A secret I've kept close to my heart." His voice wavered just a bit, revealing the weight of those words and the effort it took for him to share them. The atmosphere in the room transformed as he gently settled his hands in his lap, his fingers dancing restlessly, caught in a moment of uncertainty. "I've been struggling with emotions that I haven't fully processed," he admitted. My eyes fluttered, caught by surprise. This caught me by surprise. Uncertainty enveloped me, leaving me at a loss for words. My heart quickened, and I sensed the rhythm in my neck as his words flowed around me. Could this be a playful jest? Is there a miscommunication between us? Or was there a more profound connection beneath the surface? "I have nothing to share, truly." My voice softened, lingering in the air, uncertain of the path this exchange would take. I had always cherished him as a neighbor, yet my feelings never ventured beyond that connection. We shared words, yes, but they were merely fleeting moments of connection. There has never been an experience quite like this. His gaze met mine briefly before he continued speaking, his tone serious. I understand this may come as a surprise, and it might feel a bit unusual. Yet, a part of me has been resisting this for what feels like an eternity. Struggling with the thought of sharing this, as I wish to keep our connection uncomplicated. He lingered, his eyes drifting away, enveloped in contemplation. Yet, the reality is, I can no longer mask the emotions that stir within me. I believe I've kept it buried within for far too long. A shiver ran through me as the truth settled in, gradual yet impossible to ignore. This was more than a mere exchange of feelings. It was an experience that transcended the ordinary, a deep and genuine connection that caught us both off guard. A swirl of feelings enveloped me, astonishment, uncertainty, and a hint of trepidation. Yet, there lingered an elusive presence, a feeling I struggled to define. I'm not seeking anything or wishing to overstep any boundaries, he added swiftly, his voice carrying a deeper sincerity than before. I felt the urge to voice it, perhaps to bring it into existence at last. Perhaps to discover if you might, in some way, share those same feelings. The air between us was charged, a silent electricity that lingered, leaving us both momentarily lost in the depth of the moment. The stillness lingered, wrapping around me like a soft embrace, while my heart quickened, each beat echoing the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me as I tried to make sense of the moments that had just passed. Samuel's confession lingered between us, leaving me uncertain of how to react. The depth of his words wrapped around me, and I sensed the intensity of the moment, akin to the stillness before a tempest. As the words flowed between us, an undeniable connection began to form, leaving me with a sense of anticipation. Our connection has irrevocably changed, and nothing will ever feel quite the same again. And as much as I longed to embrace simplicity, to find solace in the familiar, I understood within my heart that I could not turn away from the unfolding reality, from the emotions that had already begun to stir. The stillness lingered between us, as if time itself had paused, creating a moment that felt endless. The rhythm of my heartbeat echoed in my ears, the atmosphere around us charged with an intensity that made it seem as though we were suspended in time, neither able to advance nor retreat. Samuel remained seated, his hands resting gently in his lap, captivated by my gaze, unable to look away. I found myself enveloped in a tempest of feelings. A rush of unexpected feelings, a swirl of uncertainty, and an undercurrent of something profound, stirring within. His honesty gave me a new perspective on our connection. Yet, I found myself uncertain about how to navigate through it. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words, hoping to articulate the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. Samuel, is that you? Indeed. I began my journey. Yet, I found myself unable to reach the end. His confession left me in a swirl of emotions, unsure of how to articulate my feelings. Could I find the words to reply? Is there a way for me to express myself without complicating things further? Or was this a journey that simply required time to reveal itself? He must have felt my uncertainty, for he spoke once more, his tone soft yet filled with an undeniable urgency. I find myself not seeking anything, truly. I wish to ensure you feel at ease. I felt the urge to express it, as holding it inside has become too heavy to bear. I'm not quite sure what I long for, to be truthful. He sat forward slightly, his expression thoughtful and sincere. I find myself curious if you've ever pondered the same question. If perhaps there was a connection lingering between us. His words lingered in the atmosphere, leaving me momentarily lost for words. I hadn't contemplated, at least not in a deliberate way. Samuel had always been a comforting presence, a neighbor with whom I could share fleeting moments of connection. Yet this was uncharted ground. And yet there was an irresistible allure to it. Something that stirred my heart and sent my thoughts swirling in countless directions. At last, I found the words, my voice trembling with emotion. Samuel, I find myself at a loss for words. This took me by surprise. I never imagined you held these feelings. I turned my gaze aside for just a moment, seeking to find my balance, collecting my swirling thoughts. I had always perceived you as a confidant, a person in whom I could place my trust. Yet this feels unique. It evokes a deep sense of connection. Unusual. I sensed the impact of my words, aware that they were a stark contrast to his desires. Yet, the reality was that I found myself unprepared to navigate this new landscape, this change in the connection we shared. I understand this is overwhelming, Samuel murmured softly. His voice resonated with a deep sense of understanding. And I'm not seeking a response at this moment. I felt it was important to share my truth with you. It's time to be real, to embrace the truth. Your presence is valued, and the bond we share means a great deal to me. I hope that endures, above all else. His words flowed softly, yet they held a depth that resonated deeply within. It was evident that he had contemplated this for much longer than I had. Yet, I found myself questioning whether I could truly go back to the way things once were. What if everything had shifted in an everlasting way? What if there was a deeper layer I had yet to uncover? The thought of delving into this, of discovering the possibilities that lie ahead, stirred a mix of exhilaration and apprehension within me. Yet, I found myself hesitant to dive into anything, particularly without fully grasping the emotions swirling within me. I craved a moment of stillness. It's a moment to explore whether my feelings resonate in the same way. It was a moment to reflect on all that he had just shared. I don't want to lose our friendship, Samuel, I said after a pause, my voice steady yet gentle. I truly don't. Yet, I find myself yearning for a moment to breathe. It's a moment to reflect deeply, to grasp the significance of it all. At this moment, I find myself unable to provide you with a response. He nodded, his gaze unwavering, yet I could sense a subtle trace of disappointment flickering in his eyes. Yet he chose not to contest. He gazed at me with a deep, unspoken connection, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. I understand, he murmured gently. I'm here to stay. Take all the time you require, I'm here for you. Please, don't close me off, all right? Let's not allow this to overshadow the connection we've created. His serene presence captivated me, especially amidst such raw openness. His capacity to embrace my uncertainty with such elegance was a delightful surprise, wrapping me in a sense of security, allowing me the freedom to explore my feelings without the weight of urgency. Thank you, I murmured, my heart brimming with gratitude for the man before me. I assure you, I will always keep you close. We lingered in quietude for a few moments, the gravity of our exchange enveloping the space like a tender embrace. An unspoken connection lingered between us, a delicate transformation in our bond that neither of us could overlook. Yet, amidst the quiet, an undeniable shift lingered in the air. A connection profound, one that would mold us in ways we had yet to grasp. Eventually, Samuel rose, each movement measured and intentional. Perhaps it's time for me to take my leave. I never intended for our conversation to stretch into the night. I rose to my feet, my thoughts swirling with intensity. Part of me longed for him to stay, yet deep down, I understood that he had to go. We both craved a moment of solitude to reflect. Thank you for stopping by, I said, managing a smile despite the whirlwind of feelings within me, and for your honesty. He offered a soft, sincere smile, then turned his gaze toward the door. Whenever you desire. Please remember to nurture yourself, okay? I'll be here whenever you seek my presence. And in an instant, he vanished from my life. I gently shut the door behind him and leaned against it, my mind swirling with a myriad of emotions. What was the significance of it all? Did we share something deeper? Or was this merely a fleeting instance of tenderness that we would both eventually transcend? I was unaware. Yet, one truth lingered in the air, everything had shifted, and regardless of what lay ahead, I sensed that my existence, along with my bond with Samuel, would forever be transformed. The days that followed Samuel's visit carried an unusual weight, as if I were delicately balancing on a tightrope, caught in a moment suspended between longing and uncertainty. Each moment spent with him was infused with an unexpressed tension, a subtle connection that lingered in the air like a fragile whisper. As I lingered on our conversation, it echoed in my thoughts, a gentle reminder of the choices I made. I questioned whether I had acted too hastily, whether the space I sought was truly what I needed, or if I had inadvertently created a distance that felt so profound. Yet, I found it impossible to dismiss his words, the truths he had laid bare. There had always been a subtle depth in our friendship, an unspoken connection that transcended mere neighborly exchanges or light conversations. Perhaps I had always sensed it, yet I was reluctant to acknowledge it in its true form. A week went by, and yet he lingered in my thoughts more than I was willing to acknowledge. I became aware of the subtle details. The warmth in his gaze when it met mine, the way his smile held a touch of hesitation, as if unspoken words danced between us, yearning to be shared. Each time our paths intertwined, a spark of that familiar tension ignited within me, the heaviness of unexpressed emotions lingering between us. But what was the essence of it all? The answers eluded me, still out of reach. Yet, there was one truth that resonated within me. I could no longer escape the reality that awaited me. I could no longer hide the truth of my feelings, a depth that transcended mere friendship. I found myself facing it head-on. I needed clarity on what this meant, if anything, in the larger picture. After days of contemplation, I found myself at his door, heart racing with anticipation. My heart raced, and my palms felt damp as I raised my fist to the door, ready to make my presence known. This was the moment. The pivotal moment has arrived. The door opened with a gentle sway, revealing what lay beyond. And there he stood, his expression mirroring the astonishment that coursed through me. Samuel's eyes sparkled with surprise, his expression momentarily a mystery, before a gentle smile danced at the corners of his lips. "Hey," he said, his voice rich with warmth yet tinged with hesitation. "Your presence caught me by surprise. Is everything all right?" I nodded, yet a swell of unspoken words stirred within me, yearning to break free. Words eluded me, yet an undeniable urge stirred within, compelling me to express the thoughts swirling in my mind. "I've been reflecting," I began, my voice soft and unsteady. "Quite a bit, indeed. Discover who we are. Reflecting on the words you shared that evening. And I sense I've been sidestepping the reality within me." Samuel remained silent, his eyes fixed on me with a deep, compassionate understanding. His quiet presence inspired me to press on. "The truth is, Samuel," I whispered, moving a little nearer, "I've been sensing something as well." It was an experience that took me by surprise, leaving me to navigate through my feelings in a way I hadn't anticipated. I found myself torn between embracing the warmth of the feeling and questioning whether it was merely a passing whisper in time. But now I understand, I no longer wish to hide it. I hesitate to set it aside, as the implications linger in my thoughts, stirring a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Because my feelings for you run deeper than I ever imagined. His expression softened, and I could tell he felt lighter after speaking. He reached out, enveloping my hand softly in his touch radiating warmth and comfort. "I'm so pleased you mentioned that," he whispered softly. "I've longed for this moment, yet I've always been mindful not to rush you. I long to be close to you, if you feel the same way. I'm curious to explore what unfolds, embracing the journey without any pressure or haste. Just the two of us, exploring the depths of our connection." Emotion stirred within me, leaving my eyes glistening, though the reason remained a mystery. It was something deeper. It felt as if I had been suspended in time, finally awakening to the gentle release of a breath I didn't know I was keeping. At last, I could release the breath I had been holding. I felt the presence of others beside me in this journey. We shared that moment, intertwined in our experience. "I'm ready," I murmured, my voice rich with feeling. The uncertainty of the future intrigues me, and I'm eager to explore what lies ahead. In your presence. And just like that, the unspoken connection that had been growing between us dissolved into a gentle ease. There were only subtle moments, quiet expressions of feeling. Two people sharing an honest conversation, exploring emotions without rushing to conclusions. The burden of the recent weeks, filled with doubt and trepidation, dissolved in that tender moment of connection. In that soft, tender moment, I sense the stirrings of something beautiful and profound. A connection that feels genuine. We lingered in that moment, fingers entwined, relishing the tranquility that blossomed from our shared connection. The silence spoke volumes between us. All the words we longed to share had been exchanged, and that was more than sufficient. As the evening embraced us, we found ourselves on the couch, sitting near yet not quite touching, allowing the warmth of our proximity to convey unspoken feelings. Time flowed gently, unhurried and free from any weight of expectation. Two souls, gently and thoughtfully, discovering the intricacies of this new journey they share. It held its imperfections. The journey was far from simple. Yet it was undeniably true. And that was all it took. Thank you for listening, have fun and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to update the latest stories.